The latest from Ukraine, none other than the leader of the Wagner mercenary company says, yeah, I'm not holding my breath for this Ukrainian counteroffensive. It's been underway for a week now. And what is the Storm Shadow? The Storm Shadow missile. What is it? Is it the stupidest thing on the internet? Maybe not.
Congratulations. That was one of the stupidest things that I've ever seen anybody post on the internet before.
Back with the Storm Shadow. What is it right after this AM 770 KTTH?
Some passes 30 minutes.
Flanks, and they're rolling up a whole lot of the Wagner guys who are in a pretty frightful state. The Ukrainians around the embattled city of Bakhmut are attacking to the north and south on the flanks, and they're rolling up a whole lot of the Wagner guys who are in a pretty frightful state. And the chairman, president, founder of the Wagner private military corporation, Yevgeny Prigozhin, says as much. And continues what he promised last week about, I'll be leaving if I don't get more ammo from the Red Army. Apparently, you won't have a choice on that because he's losing a lot of guys. If they're not being killed outright, they are surrendering, which is against their contract, by the way. It's literally written on their contract. They're the 9 points of being a Wagner guy. The last one is that I'll have 2 grenades. I'll throw one at the enemy and one at my jaw, and then blow my head off. And so many of them are realizing, well, there is a third choice. That's where I put my arms up and I say Ruki Dirk and I surrender. And so there's that.
Yeah, the Wagner chief claims Russia lost 5 square kilometers today.
And that for Wagner, that is like 5,000 guys. That's normally what it takes to get, an inch forward. And it's funny because what confirms that this is true more quickly than anything else is the rapidity of the Russian denial. No, we're not. No, we didn't. What are you talking about? And also, Prigozhin is claiming that an entire brigade of 4,000 Russians just up and left, just in the face of a Ukrainian onslaught. They just up and left. So the British announced that it's been a bone of contention that we gave the Ukrainians the HIMARS, the high mobility aerial rocket system, but we didn't give the most capable thing it can shoot, the Army Tactical Missile System, the ATACMS, which is a longer range, very smart weapon. And we didn't give them that because we're just afraid that in their fervor to defend themselves, that they would shoot it into physical Russia. And for some reason, we're putting this artificial limit on weapons that we give them that, okay, you can be at war, but only with the Russians on your own territory. And which is ludicrous because the Russians are obviously using railroad yards and things like that inside of Russia to marshal follow-on forces, reinforcements, and all that. So the British said, oh, well, here, you can have, they have a indigenously developed cruise missile called the Storm Shadow, pew, pew, pew. And it's very capable. Air launch, ground launch, whatever. It's funny, it took the RAF 10 years and $130 million to adopt it to air launch. The Ukrainians did it in about a month with their MiG-29s. Anyway, is it capable? The number one thing that people saw with that is, well, if you're going to try to retake Crimea, then you're going to have to drop that bridge. The bridge that Putin ordered in 2015, the bridge connecting mainland Russia across the Kerch Strait and then landing there in Crimea. Well, of course it is. They already tried to blow it up, and they did succeed in shutting it down for a couple of days. And so that the Pentagon basically said, well, there's that. I guess you don't need the American ATACMS if you have that. So if their intent is, and the unspoken message with the British was, hey, you're not going to shoot these at Moscow, are you? Or some other Russian town. And the Ukrainians they understand that you don't bite the hand that feeds you and all that. But The bridge, yes, the bridge is a legit target. So we will be shooting it at that bridge because it's going to do a couple of things. It's going to prevent Russian reinforcement, and if you drop it completely, it'll prevent retreat, which is not exactly what they want. But anyway, so that's your update there, and I'm still surprised that, I've been saying for like a week, and what I've seen on Telegram indicates to me I'm looking at a counteroffensive. I'm looking at a victorious army moving forward, and evidently with very high morale. And I'm looking at very demoralized Russians, surrendering to drones or committing suicide because drones are killing their buddies or whatever. A little later on, this is the voice of Yevgeny Prigozhin, the founder and president of the Wagner Group private mercenary company, standing over the body of Idaho's Nicholas Mamer, a Special Forces veteran, now confirmed by the family in Boise as being dead. This is Prigozhin, whose Wagner guys just killed him and some other Ukrainians with mortars, promising to put him in a coffin with honor and an American flag.
Соединенным Штатам Америки положим в гроб, закроем американским флагом с уважением.
And he's talking to his henchmen, I guess is what you would, if you work for him in Wagner, I guess you are a minion, you're a henchman. And it is a Wagner thing that when they do body exchanges with the Ukrainians, they drape a Ukrainian flag on the coffin and all that, because that's how Prigozhin wants his guys treated and all that. So it's a thing he does, and he has the passport and the retiree ID. So, and the family confirms that is him in the video. It's a night video that was taken in Bakhmut 2 days ago, and Prigozhin said he died with honor and not like a grandpa in bed, and so he promises that he'll transport the body to the U.S. Embassy in Moscow, and then he.
Потому что он умер не в постели.
And then he laughed evilly, and everyone else did the Untouchables laughter. It's a Wednesday. Bryan Suits here with producer Greg, and this is like I've mentioned before. It is a weird curiosity of this conflict that Putin will shut down all these other media outlets, but on this one thing, on the app Telegram, which is Russian, it's wide open. It's full throttle. It's not edited, not censored, nothing. They're very most of the channels that I watch are specifically Telegram channels run by Ukrainian battalions, and it's their own direct propaganda arm, and stuff like that. MSNBC picked up on this story this morning.
This morning, the grim confirmation that another American has died fighting in Ukraine. Overnight, Nicholas Mamer's aunt, Sherry Mamer, confirmed to NBC News the 45-year-old veteran from Boise, Idaho, passed away. Yesterday, a video posted by a pro-Russian blogger on Telegram shows Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin standing over what he says is a dead American soldier in Bakhmut. The group posting an Idaho driver's license and what appear to be genuine U.S. documents for Nicholas Mamer.
They look legit, and the family confirms the video is him. My downside here is that this would be, the fact that the guy's been retired since 2018 is not going to matter, because the Russians, in the Russian world, you never retire from the KGB, you never retire from Spetsnaz, and they don't think that Americans retire from special forces. A real conflict here for Thing 5. I don't know whether the controversy about why are films lately so badly lit and difficult to see, or Colorado driver tries switching places with dog to avoid DUI. The winner of what interests me the most, coming up in just a few minutes. Also, an American from Idaho, former Special Forces guy, killed in Ukraine. And Telegram and a camera is there. More on that in just a second. AM 770 KTT. Reports of this American from Idaho, a former Special Forces veteran, are trickling into the American media. I'll play for you when we come back a bit of the raw Telegram video that Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the Wagner Group, posted yesterday afternoon on the Telegram. And the likelihood that he was there in his stated capacity as a private citizen, is it good or bad? Spoiler, it's good. He was there. There's many Americans that are working on a private capacity physically in Ukraine. And then there's other people with only first names that are on a per diem out of Kiev, but he was not one of them. What's
the motivation of the head of the Wagner Group coming out and saying that they've killed an American? And didn't he say he wants to treat the dead body with respect and honor and send it back to the U.S.? Why would he do that?
He's going to drape the guy, put him in a coffin, drape it with an American flag, because he died fighting. He didn't die like a grandpa lying in bed, and as part of the Prigozhin shtick, he does it with Ukrainian dead, because the Ukrainians are very respectful. When they return Prigozhin's dead, when they trade bodies, and they do it all the time, they treat him very respectfully. That thing 2 weeks ago where he was in the middle of the night talking in front of a field of his dead, the Ukrainians had just taken a trench, and all these Wagner guys were dead in there, and then they just filled up a truck. And they drove it to a field, and they took the guys out, and they lined them up in rows, and they called Prigozhin and said, hey, come take out the garbage. Get it off our land, please. And that's what set him off, was he had so many dead all of a sudden, and he blamed it on Moscow, not giving him, ammo. But he makes a point as he's looking over the body of Nicholas Mamer, and he has this passport. He shows it to the camera, the whole thing. And he makes a point of, and he's doing it as if he's discussing it with his XO, his number 2 guy, and he's saying, well, and the guy died firing back, and the guy said, yeah, it was a firefight, and he's dead, and the whole thing. And Prigozhin said, well, we're going to put him in a coffin and drape him in an American flag because he died an honorable death, and this is what he put on the Telegram last night.
Соединенным Штатам Америки положим в гроб, закроем американским флагом с уважением, потому что он...
So he's saying it as if we're supposed to owe him a favor or something, but that is what he's doing. The family in Boise did confirm that the guy lying there he was in a building, and the Wagner guys hit it with RPGs and mortars or something, and he has obvious fatal wounds around the head and chest area. The family has seen the video, and they confirm it's him, and that Prigozhin has his ID cards and all that. So using it for propaganda would have been done, I think, by now. If the foreign minister, what's his name, hasn't made it a propaganda thing so far about, see, the American government's fighting on the ground. The CIA sent a guy here. We killed him. Then they're probably not going to. Back in a second, AM 770 KTTH. The former or something like that. But so anyway, that's the extent of my commie stripper tie-in on that one. So the Nicholas Mamer is the name of the former Boise resident who was killed in Ukraine in combat with the Wagner Group guys in the city of Bakhmut, and MSNBC with some of that.
This morning, the grim confirmation that another American has died fighting in Ukraine. Overnight, Nicholas Mamer's aunt, Sherry Mamer, confirmed to NBC News the 45-year-old veteran from Boise, Idaho, passed away. Yesterday, a video posted by a pro-Russian blogger on Telegram shows Wagner mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin standing over what he says is a dead American soldier in Bakhmut. The group posting an Idaho driver's license and what appear to be genuine U.S. documents for Nicholas Mamer.
Can confirm. And New York Times today with their story, The Offensive Before the Offensive. As I've been telling you, this is the first time I've seen it in American open source. Earlier this month, 4 drones attacked a Russian oil refinery almost 300 miles from Ukraine. The next day, another drone hit the same refinery not long after another drone bombed a fuel depot, Call it the offensive before the offensive. Strike by pinpoint strike. Ukraine is taking aim at ammunition stores and caches of other supplies that Moscow's forces need to fight, seeking to weaken them ahead of a broader ground campaign to push back the Russian invaders. And it's called shaping the battlefield prior to a offensive. You can either do a surprise attack, but the element of surprise is kind of lost when the Russians invaded Ukraine in February of last year. And since everybody knows that the Ukrainians are going to attempt to take as much territory back, there's no point hiding it. And so in all likelihood, the signal that it's on, the main spring offensive and not a decoy offensive will include pinpoint strikes on that bridge, as I described yesterday, over the Kerch Strait that links the Crimean Peninsula with the Russian mainland, as they're also going to attempt to split the Russian line down to the Sea of Azov and try to force the Russians to evacuate the Crimea, which doesn't seem likely to occur, but it is, at the very least, it's a negotiating point. And what the Taiwanese have very quietly been pushing, not the Chinese, but the Taiwanese have been behind the scenes supporting the Ukrainians quite a bit. So the word is, as a feint, as a strategic feint, it's really tough to beat cutting off the Crimea. But and looking like you really are going to try to retake it. But the Ukrainians have been advised, and they thought of this themselves, there's no point in retaking it. It was artificially given to Ukraine in the 50s because it was an economic basket case, even more than the rest of the Soviet Union. And so Khrushchev, a Ukrainian, said, yeah, why not? Let's give the Crimea to Ukraine. It's been Russian for 300 years and the whole thing. And the Ukrainian army has said, we don't want to have to die to take a place that we're going to have to occupy like it's a hostile occupied land or something. There's not many Ukrainians there anyway. It's 99% Russian, but let's make Putin think, let's give Putin some leverage and make him think we can take it if we want, but why shouldn't we? Wouldn't it be fun to give us back the rest of Ukraine? And that's what the Taiwanese are saying behind the lines. Lauren Boebert, Representative Lauren Boebert, divorced. Bryan Suits here, and it was 104 years ago, November 11th, 1919, when the Centralia Massacre occurred, and members of the International Workers of the World killed 4 veterans marching in the Centralia Veterans Day Parade. Now, 104 years later, the International Twerkers of the World have finally united. Say what you will about the Internationale, but it does have a beat. You could dance to it. If one were to pole dance to the Internationale, the international theme and anthem of Yerkami. And that's because dancers at a North Hollywood topless bar will become the only strippers in the United States to gain union recognition after the club's management withdrew challenges to their guild election. The union announced yesterday, International Twerkers of the World Unite. There's so many ways you can go with this. Like, I'd go with International Brotherhood of Electrical Twerkers, the IBET, or what are the longshoremen called? It's like ILWU, Workers Union, Longshoremen Twerkers Union. Anyway, the recognition came after a sometimes testy 15-month battle between the dancers and the strip club Star Garden on Lancashire over becoming a union. And however, you have to wonder, will the patrons notice any difference now that they're union? Are they going to be up on stage leaning on shovels and stuff? Reagan, one of the Star Garden dancers, said, quote, "If you've been following our journey, then you know that this has been a long, exhausting fight, which is why this victory is so sweet. We put everything we have into this campaign, and we're fortunate to have the support and solidarity of the club's patrons." Blah, blah, blah. Recognition came during a settlement hearing between union attorneys and attorneys for management at the bar. Is there a minimum now that you have to, no more dollar bills. They don't take those. But I don't know what it's a little lean on details on that one. What do unionized strippers look like? Do you have to? Are you going to just hire anyone now, or do you have to be related to someone or something like that? But so anyway, that's the extent of my commie stripper tie-in on that one. So the Nicholas Mamer is. Oh, yeah. In fact, I have. A friend of mine was a Saskatchewan Rough Rider.
Beautiful place.
And popped up there once. Oh, wow. Anyway, and that was thing 3. Let's get to thing 4 already.
Fourth thing.
Absolutely chomping at the bit for me to tell you about Finland. Well, Turkey stepped out of the way. Out of the way, you turkeys. Turkey's parliament voted to approve Finland's membership bid yesterday, clearing the last major roadblock. The move would double NATO's land border with Russia, not counting Alaska, by the way, because that's not NATO. It's 2 NATO countries, but it's so the deal is Finland, a whopping 6 million people. Russia just got itself 800 miles of frontage, an 800-mile increase to security zone with a NATO member, with Finland. And yes, there will be U.S. bases in Finland, and American B-1Bs will be based out of Finland, and they'll be visiting the lovely, lovely country full of ironic and brilliant people. And so there's your booby prize. There you go for Putin. You win. Thing 5.
Fifth thing.
Major League Baseball's opening day. All 30 teams. Did you see